is your favorite superhero? Because when we were messaging on Facebook, I saw that your icon was the Hulk.
Okay, there's a story behind that. My friend Mike Bloom. I'm Max Blalock. I'm the United Methodist campus minister appointed to William and Mary, and I'm at Wesley campus minister of the Wesley Foundation right across the street from campus. I always felt like there was a call in my life to serve God in some way. I thought that was going to be medical school until I got to medical school. So I eventually dropped out of medical school, and I was like, okay, what comes next? And I'd majored in religion and history in college and taken all the science courses to get into medical school, and then talked to a pastor and I was talking with him about my calling, and he gave this wonderful holy advice. He said, well, my recommendation is go to seminary, get ordained, and that'll open up a lot more doors. Oh, wow. See, now, I'm going to really date myself because I can remember, I explicitly remember the first 45 I bought. Because we were in the drugstore, one of the drugstores in my hometown, and they piped music in, and I heard this song, and once again, like elementary school age, late elementary school age, I heard this song, and I was like, oh, this is the best song. I wonder if they have it. And at that time, the drugstore had record sales, so you could go look through the 45s, and they did, and I got it. And it was Mandy by Barry Manilow. I think what the main thing I remember about Halloween as a child, sorry I'm not answering your question directly, was when I finally got old enough to go around and vandalize things in the neighborhood. My very first pet was Ginger, and she was a stray dog that came up to our house, and my mom and dad were trying to run her away out the back door while I was sneaking out the front door and giving her food. And we eventually got to keep her. She was a German Shepherd mix. The most scared. My nephew that I mentioned before, he and I grew up in the same house. We grew up together like brothers. Fast forward years later, I'm in seminary. He's been medically retired out of the Air Force because he developed chronic myelogenous leukemia as a result of probably of being in the Air Force, actually, and exposure to nuclear weapons and that kind of thing. I was at the end of my second year in seminary when he died. And the tough thing about it was that not only were all of us praying and all of this, but he didn't just die, he died a very horrible death. And it shattered me. Like it shattered my faith, it shattered my self-perception, everything.
You were there when the preacher was by the sundial a few weeks ago. What motivates you to get involved in those kinds of things?
Well, first and foremost, it is my faith, and I say that not as necessarily using the term Christian, but I say it's using the term follower of Jesus. Because looking at the example of Jesus and what Jesus calls us to do is to stand together with people, particularly folks who are marginalized and folks who are being targeted. And it's just as a person too that I think my sense of, I'll phrase it this way. This is the best way I know to say it is that I hope that within all of us, that regardless of our faith, that there's this moral and ethical center that resides in us, no matter who we are, that helps us to know this is wrong and something needs to be done. And in both of those instances, it was much less about going to argue with the preacher than it was going to stand with the students. And it wasn't about, demonizing anybody in the Trump administration, even though there's plenty of options there, but it's standing together with students to say this is wrong and this needs to stop.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a ton. Thanks for great questions. Those were fantastic. I would apologize, but that's just me for taking them in directions you didn't necessarily want them to go.